Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Well, they gave me bars, but I can see between to a dusty yard and a long gone green. We call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I drown my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober as a judge.
Hi everybody, welcome to Longbangers. This is episode 69, so to commemorate that we're going to do this, well I'm going to stand on my head and John's sitting down, so it's an interesting way to start. Got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got the transfer window, which slammed shut without any breakages or fingers getting trapped on Monday evening at 11 o'clock. Hibs did some good business, so we'll discuss that. We've got a 3-2 win against Hamilton to talk about, and then some Betfred Cup games to think about, which are coming up this week, a couple of games. So we had planned to have Brian on, but he's otherwise disposed. Nothing to do with 69s, I hope. Or maybe if he's lucky, that is what it's for. But I am delighted to say I've been joined by John. How are you this evening, John?
I'm not bad. I was saying to you earlier that I was at the physio earlier for a wee lumbar problem that I've got, and she done this mad thing where she contorted my body, and basically the entire bottom section felt like it had popped out. There was this massive clunk. But actually, as scary as it was at the time, I've come away with just this obscene globe at myself. I feel like I'm on Smack or something. Like I want to go back and have her do it every week.
Happy days. So are you actually having problems with your back now? That sounds like a stupid question. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having physio if you didn't have problems. But is that what it is, your back?
It's just a wee niggle. I can't really describe it other than that. It's just a wee niggle. It doesn't really hurt. Like it doesn't impact me doing anything at the gym. It doesn't impact me when I'm walking about or that. But as bizarre as it sounds, see when I turn over in bed, it's really uncomfortable. If I was to bend over, it's really uncomfortable in this very sort of specific part in the sort of lower left-hand side of my spine. So she's been in and try to prise apart the vertebrae, prise apart the muscles, and it may in fact have something to do with the time that I broke my coccyx back in Malaga many moons ago. So there you go.
Right.
But it's not going to stop me becoming the Captain America in this, but I am firing ahead.
Yeah, well, I said that earlier on. You look like you've lost weight now. Obviously, I can see this because we're on Skype and you're on camera, but listeners can't see it. But the curvy Nisbet was probably an apt description, but you're definitely getting closer to just the Nisbet. And
no,
even
well,
in the short bit of time that you've been working on it.
Closer's relative. I've probably still got about 6 stone to go.
Aye, closer. This is a bit closer. It's gradual, but you'll get there.
Aye. Relatively speaking, he's a professional footballer. I'm a professional sitting on my arse kind of guy.
Aye. So, say no more about it. Right. Transfer window. Let's have a quick recap of who we brought in. So, Alex Gogic, Dylan Barnes, Jay Wright, Jamie Murphy, Kevin Nisbet, Kyle McGuinness, Stephen McGinn, Martin Boyle signed an extension of his contract. Are you happy with that business, John?
Aye, massively. I'd suggested before we done the podcast when we were talking about agendas and we were going to talk about the transfer window and the players that we brought in, and I thought it was a good idea if we cover the squad as it stands and where these guys perhaps fit in, just to maybe try and provide a wee bit more flavour to what the squad actually looks like now, because I think it's easy to look at the guys that we brought in and went, oh yes, that's brilliant, like we've signed players, but actually where do they fit within the squad?
Yeah.
And something you mentioned there was about Boyle having signed a new contract, and perhaps that's maybe been overlooked in the whole sort of transfer window, because like you say, it's boys being brought in, but actually that's an addition to the squad in itself.
We actually think at the start of the window or end of last season, or ended prematurely, I think most folk thought Boyle would probably be on his way, given the impact that he'd had at the end of last season and the rumours about going to Celtic or other clubs being interested in him. So fairly significant. What I'll do, John, is that when the window's shut and Hibs put their recap tweet out, I'd asked folk to send us in their thoughts on the transfer window. So I'm just going to read a few of them out, and then we can kind of pick it apart as we go through. Robert Dunn, he said very happy with incoming, but will miss Darryl Horgan. Kev R said it was superb. Christopher Black, cracking window, would like another forward in the door to add depth. Amazing that for years we dealt in nominal fees, frees and loans. COVID hits and we're flashing the cash. I love the ambition we're now showing. It's a good point as well. Maybe come back to that as well. Freddie White, very strong window from Hibs, more so under the current circumstances. Ron Gordon has shown he means business, and hopefully we continue to build, bringing in hungry young players mixed with some experienced ones. Great window. Lord Franco of Trouser Dribble, he said, you know, the good thing about this, he's got a picture of, did you watch the Fast Show when it was on, John? Are you too young for that?
No, I remember bits of the Fast Show.
The old lush kind of the drunk guy, you know.
Yeah.
It's Lord Franco Trouser Dribble. That's his avatar on Twitter, and I'm not sure if that is his name. I don't think it was the name of the character anyway. But his tweet was wank. Never wank over a transfer window. You always see the stain on a sunny day. Other than that, it's been quite good, I think. So hard to argue with that. Lee said, superb business, clear plan, what we needed, and we have delivered. Ron has well and truly kept his word. JD said, brilliant, identified where needed improving, got early business done quickly to fill immediate gaps, used past months to build depth in key areas. You know, it was easy for me to say. No complaints from me. Squad a lot stronger than the last 2 seasons. Stephen Henderson said, Ty Marciano up with a new contract, and this is a team built for top 3, challenging for years to come. Being greedy, I would like a speed merchant backup striker to give us something last 20 minutes if need be. Leon said, great window, especially in the circumstances. The players that have arrived have definitely been a big improvement on the players that left. Lord Franco's back again. He said, seems like there's a plan. No doubt credit is due to others at the club too. Proper club. I like that what he's saying. Tam says, in Rod we trust. Liam Fogarty he said, very good. Squad now has the balance we've been missing the past 2 seasons. Kaiser Soze, he's just tweeted a gif of Daffy. Well, masturbating, I think is the only way you could describe it. Daffy Duck covering a wee dog.
Maybe said he was ripping the heat off it or something.
Well, I could have said that, but that's not the podcast for subtlety, John, is it? Neil Renton said he's disappointed. He reckoned the best transfer window signing that was made was, wait for it, Stephen Glass. That should be followed either by a groan or a boom, but Neil Renton gets transferred away. Next window, he's getting released. Stephen said, on paper and on the pitch, it's all looking pretty good. Time to push on now. Stephen Bell, we've added some good quality to key areas of the pitch and shown real ambition in our pursuit of certain players. A very solid 8 out of 10 or near full-blown stoner, if you will. Raymond Broom, excellent window. Really quality players with a bright future and value ahead of them. Players moved on to clear up the wage bill. I feel we're working in around a 3-year cycle. Achieve on the field as the players improve. Sell on for a profit as they mature. Rinse and repeat. John Lyons, very happy with the transfer window we've just had. GGTTH. And Stuart Ainsley, a good window for Hibs with quality upgrades in key positions. So before we go and pick the bones out of that, Lewis Cummins also tweeted with a list of the ins and outs. So we've gone through who came in, but to put context on it, these are the players that left either through other teams signing them or being released. Adam Bogdan, Adam Jackson, Ben Sterling, Darryl Horgan, Flo Canberry, Greg Docherty, Jason Naismith, Mark McNulty, Stefan Omionga, Stephen Whittaker, and Vikintas Slivka. So, right, John, where do we even start with that? Squad in a better shape than we went into the window, or not?
I think so. With Lewis, I'd scribbled down some of the names that had left, and I think I got as far as Jackson, Horgan, Naismith going back to his parent club, McNulty, and Omionga the same. But actually, there's a whole host of names there that I'd completely forgot about. Canberry, Docherty, Whittaker, and Slivka being the others. I'd gone onto Wikipedia earlier, so I'd done a similar exercise, and I was looking at the squad, and I think if I've captured it right and Wikipedia is right, then we've got a squad of 24 with an additional 10 who are out on loan. 9 of them, I think, have come through the development squad or the academy or whatever you call it. I think potentially we might be a wee bit light at the back. But like I'm looking at, so our right backs I think are Paul McGinn, David Gray. Centre half you've got Porteous, Hanlon, and McGregor, and over on the left you've got Dougie Tripod, Lewis Stevenson, and Sean Mackey. So even for like I was just looking at the centre halves to begin with. If you were to lose, say, Porteous or Hanlon, then you've got McGregor to come in.
Mhm.
But then I suppose the flexibility that we've got in the squad with signing McGinn, you switch that to 3 at the back, and hopefully you're all right.
Paul McGinn can play centre half as well. Do you know if we're really stuck, and you know David Gray's not going to let us down if he's called upon a right back.
Yeah.
So I think we're all right in that bit. I mean, it definitely is leaner, isn't it? But
it's leaner, but it feels like it's. I think leaner would suggest that. Sorry, leaner, and in particular the sort of current climate that we're living in. I can't remember who it was that mentioned it, but nominal fees, loan signings, that kind of stuff. Like, if somehow Hibs have managed to flip that on its head. We've trimmed the squad. There was a couple of people that had mentioned about players being moved on, cost reduced and whatnot. But at the same time, we've actually paid fees for players. And you'd been quite vocal about the fact that we'd signed McGuinness on a 5-year deal.
Aye, it's a cracking bit of business that, by the way.
It's got the potential to be huge. I mean, Jack Ross gave McGuinness his first game for St Mirren against Hibs many moons ago, and I think what you're seeing perhaps through the transfer window and what Jack Ross has done with the support of Ron Gordon is properly starting to put his squad together. You've seen quite a lot of players that have been offloaded. Say like Naismith, exactly. Naismith, for example. There was chat about him potentially returning, but actually we seem to have gone in a slightly different direction. And I'm looking at it, and I just it's versatile, it's experience, it's youth, it's planning for the future, and I think it's all things that we like to see and that we want for Hibs.
So what about this idea of a 3-year cycle that Raymond Brown touted?
I can't remember the conversation exactly that we had with Graham Matthey. I feel like something along those lines came up in the conversation, and we definitely talked about it before. And I wonder, I think the example that was used was John McGinn, basically giving the young, hungry players, if you like, the opportunity to come and demonstrate what they're capable of, perhaps at a more high-profile team, with a view to bettering themselves, looking for a sort of win-win situation. If it's 3 years, if it's 4 years, I can't remember exactly how long it was that we had McGinn for, but I think we managed to squeeze absolutely every single last bit out of him, up to and including the goal against Triple East. And touch wood, and what we've got in Nisbet so far, I think we perhaps have something similar there. I think it's too early to say about the likes of McGuinness, for example, because to be honest, I actually can't think of ever having seen him play, but I've been honest enough before to say that I know next to nothing about anyone outside the Hibs squad. So hopefully,
this is the podcast format, wasn't it? We were quite open about it. I would say that McGuinness actually bizarrely is one that, when his name came up, I was really excited about. I think young Scottish midfield talent that has been coming through in the last few years. I think Motherwell have been very, very good with who they brought through. So Turnbull and Campbell are two of the most exciting players in the league, I think. Turnbull obviously got his move for, was it $3.5 million or something to Celtic, which showed you the quality there. I think Campbell's got the potential to reach that level as well. I don't think he's quite there yet, or the type of midfielder he isn't quite as in demand as the type of player that Turnbull is. So you maybe wouldn't get quite a big fee for him. Also, he's into the last year of his contract. So I know Hibs were monitoring that situation. And I think if somebody had come in for him, Hibs might have moved to do it. I think knowing that he's going to be available maybe a little bit cheaper in January, as he enters into the final few months of his contract, we might have a better chance of getting him, just maybe kind of being patient. Do
you think Hibs will maybe test the resolve with a wee 50 grand bid or something?
Well, I think Motherwell are guaranteed, all joking aside, guaranteed somewhere in the region of 300,000 or 400,000. I think based on the calculation they use for development fees. Maybe even be slightly higher than that. Nudging up towards the sort of $500,000 value. We're seeing quoted on Twitter, but I don't know how accurate it is. But McGuinness is definitely in that bracket of players. So before he was injured at St Mirren, he was probably their best player, but definitely the most exciting one. In terms of, I think somebody described him as more like McGinn than Mallon. Mallon was a good player at St Mirren, and we know what we got with Mallon when we signed him. McGuinness is a different type of midfielder. He's much more all action, sort of John McGinn-esque. If you were going to replicate John McGinn, McGuinness is probably the closest that we could bring in on our budget. And from what I know of him from reading up on it, I think his character is very similar. He's that kind of like your West of Scotland, quite they're gallus. They're not frightened of anything. They go into a big game and not be overawed. They just go and back themselves to get through it. Really excited, and for him to get him on a 5-year deal is phenomenal. I mean, if that, you can look back at this podcast, and obviously things can happen with injuries and things like that. But if he doesn't go for, I would say, 10 times the amount that we paid for him, I would be amazed. I think St Mirren will make a lot of money on the back of it, because I would imagine they'll have a sell on, and I think Hibs will make a lot of money, and we'll enjoy some success with him as well. I think he's that important a player. Nisbet, I would put in the same bracket. Nisbet's, everybody talks about Shankland. Nisbet, I think, is probably a better all-round player than Shankland. Shankland's possibly a better goal scorer than him. I think we're in a really good place. Probably the most excited I can remember being at a transfer window for the type of players that we've got. And the idea of the 3-year window, I just think that it probably is about right, because we will probably get 2 to 3 years out of Nisbet and probably get 2 to 3 years out of McGuinness. And if we sign Campbell, we'll probably get 2 to 3 years out of him. But the money that we make on those players will fund the next McGuinness, the next Campbell, and the next Nisbet. We'll be able to spot who these players are and go in and hopefully have the advantage over your Aberdeens or Dundee United, who are spending a bit of money, who will probably be looking for similar types of players. I think Hibs have got that blueprint now. They know what sort of player will work for us. And I think we will go and see signings like that over and over and over as we build. It's tremendously exciting. I get really worked up about stuff like this, John, as you can probably tell.
Yeah. So just on the business side of things, Hibs have announced a few contracts recently. I think the most recent was, is it Carabao? I think, is that the right pronunciation?
Yeah,
energy drink.
Yeah, right.
You had Manscaped, and I think there's been, I want to say there's been a firm of solicitors and a few other things. Do you think there's been any money in those deals that's allowed Hibs to go out and buy these players, or do you think it's all just Ron Gordon with the Amex just signing off on these purchases?
I don't think any of the purchases that we've made, any of the signings we have made, have been funded by Ron Gordon dipping into his own pocket. That's my gut feeling. I think if you read into the word, then so Leanne Dempster tweeted earlier on. Let me see if I can quickly find the tweet. 2 seconds. And she kind of hinted in it, as if you read into the word.
Was it funding from different sources?
We've come out the transfer window with a smaller squad, but careful player trading in and out has helped us add real quality. I think she also said we couldn't have done it. Players, staff and supporters have rallied on the pitch and off it with season tickets, HFC supporters donations and a host of other gestures. It's humbling. So there's no mention there to say we want to thank Ron Gordon for putting his hand in his pocket and funding these exciting signings. My interpretation of that tweet is that Hibs have traded their way and taken money in for. So we know Jackson left for money, Horgan left for money, Canberra left for money. I'm not sure if we got like any money for anybody else that went out the door. Ollie Shaw, if you remember, I think we got a fee for him when he left, which was in the January window. I think Hibs have just reinvested that. They've taken the money. We've still cut our squad size. Our budget's still gone down, but we've earmarked some of that money for investment. And it was a dirty phrase a while back because of the extent that Hearts went that it with Vlad. But that speculate to accumulate ethos. This is the first time really I've seen, other than John McGinn, I've seen Hibs really take that gamble. Saying, right, we've got some money that we've taken in. We could bank it and play safe. And stretch it over 5 or 6 free transfers or whatever? Or why not take a calculated risk? That player's definitely going to add value, as we think. Going to spend the money, get them in now, have a good season, develop them and make money on them down the road.
It's in the past, obviously, and it's pure speculation, but do you think that had COVID impacted the world in Scottish football the way that it's had, and Tom Farmer and Petrie being the ultimate string pullers at Easter Road, do you think we would have banked that money rather than fork out on these players?
I would think so. I would say history and evidence probably suggests that's what we would have done. We might have spent it eventually, but I think initially we would have just sat, it will be a running cost. They might not have made the same decisions that Ron and Leanne have made, with regard to staff cuts elsewhere in the business. They might have said, right, we can keep this money and we'll run the club the same as we've run it last season before that. I just use that money to fund it. Yeah. Whereas I think what Ron and Leanne have done, I've gone, right, we've got an opportunity to invest in the product on the park, which is long term what we have to do. If we want to be successful, you're going to have a good team out on the pitch. So how do we do that in a way that's sustainable? It's not going to put the club in jeopardy, but also works. That improves the product, and I think that's what they've done. They said, right, well, right now we can't afford to have X number of staff doing this job because that job's not viable at the minute because we don't have any crowds coming in, or we don't have that work stream for them to do. So rather than paying somebody who can't do their job at the minute, make tough decisions and unpopular decisions and sometimes unpalatable decisions as well, because nobody likes to do it. Nobody wants to see somebody lose their job. At the end of the day, this is people's livelihoods and lives that you're talking about. So you can't take that decision lightly. But I think what they've done is say, like, long term, the best thing to do for the club is to make those decisions now, invest where the investment needs to go, so that when COVID moves on or life goes back to normal, when you get the crowds back in, you can expand very, very quickly at that point because your business is healthy. You can go and say, right, that's the crowds back in. Do you know that person that we released or made redundant? Let's go back to them and say, listen, if you want to come back and work for us, because not everybody will when you've been made redundant, but they might say to them, that position's back available for you. If you come in, we'll put you back on the same money you were on, but it's viable, you can do it. Or they fill that job, that position with somebody else, and they bring somebody else in, but they can grow the club very, very quickly from a really healthy starting point. I think if we totally contracted or did what you suggested, which Peachy or Farmer may have done, I think when the time comes to go back to normal, you're playing catch up on everybody else who's moved on. Whereas we're not doing that now. I think we're in a really, really good position for the first time ever. Like, I actually think you've got something that we stand out from other clubs at the minute. Outside the Glasgow 2, obviously, who could just spend their way through it regardless. So
do you think like Leanne Dempster's come in for a bit of stick in the past? Like, she's like you said, like, she's made some unpopular decisions and perhaps gotten something wrong. Do you think that she's coming through, or she's demonstrating at the moment why she's an asset to the club?
I think everybody at the club is demonstrating why they're an asset to the club at the moment. If I'm honest with you, John, I don't think so. Yes, to answer your question, yes, I do think that. And I say that as somebody who's generally been very happy with what Leanne Dempster's done at the club. I think she's always acted with the club's best interests at heart and taken again, difficult decisions and unpopular decisions, but for the right reasons and with the best intentions. So sometimes you get it wrong, right? Because it's human, everybody gets stuff wrong. But I think if you look at the position the club is in now compared to when she came on board, you'd be hard pushed to argue that we're not in a better place.
Yeah.
But I think you look right across the board, everybody's pitching in, so the media output is better than it was previously. You look at, we've got a product on a Saturday. If you want to watch the Hibs TV, you've got David Tanner, and I don't know if you watched it at the weekend, had John Hughes and talking about the game, Tam McManus. You've actually got kind of, still has teething issues, but you've got a broad-looking professional production coming out. Hibs TV's is slightly better. That's improving. I think all these things right across the club are moving forward. They're all getting better. I think everybody at the club has stepped up and has taken on extra work because of the position that we're in.
Yep.
Aye. So yeah, I think she's the right person for the job, undoubtedly, and I think she's benefiting from the enthusiasm and direction that Ron Gordon's come in with.
Aye, no, I wouldn't say that I had reservations about Ron Gordon to begin with, but I think I'd said months and months ago that I'd asked one of the fans reps what sort of due diligence had been done, because in Scottish football you mentioned Romanov, you had Craig White over at Celtic. Like, are we being taken for a ride here? Like, how much have we looked into this? Was it just easy for Tom Farmer to get rid of? But actually, since then, I think Ron Gordon himself had said something about just taking a wee bit of time to go through a sort of bedding in process, and then he was going to say, right, this is what we're this is what we're doing, this is where we're going. You had the AGM and the plans that were announced then. I've had to take it back burner, but since then, like, I can't really think of a time post McLeish and the breaking up of TV deals and all that sort of stuff where we've actually gone out and spent money of this type and brought in players of this type and signed them up in the contracts that we've done. And even on the corporate side, as much as I don't really take much of an interest in it, I think I'd mentioned before about a sort of Scandinavian model of just getting names on strips. I don't really care. I know that other people were perhaps as interested in that as I was, but the sort of official manscaping partners, the official energy drink partners, if it brings fun at the club, so be it. I'm happy with that. Surprising perhaps that we've never done it before. But if there's money coming at the club, particularly during this time, that's great. And if that's money banked, whereas the money that we've got in from the other players that we've sold has been reinvested, that is something else that leaves us in a good position.
Aye, definitely. It's exciting.
Positive.
There was somebody, and I forget the tweet that was, but mentioned about ambition. And genuinely, this is a transfer window where Hibs look like they're being ambitious, even allowing for the quality of the players that left the club. And there were some good players in amongst that. Mm-hmm. Big wages, players that we worked hard to attract to the club have moved on. But you look at the players that we brought in, and that type of signing, ambition is absolutely the right word to use. It is, I've said it a few times, a very exciting time for the club. Could you, John, pick a starting 11, or what would be your starting 11 based on who we've got at the club now?
I would,
just for folk listening, they didn't see that gesture that you just did. John just slumped in his chair, threw his head back for a minute, as if to say, "Oh, for fuck's sakes!
What are you doing to me?"
Didn't do this, mate.
At the risk of coming up with a shitty answer, I would probably go with the starting 11 from Friday night. I honestly couldn't say anything about McGuinness. Stephen McGinn, we've not seen yet. Jamie Murphy's playing. I'm looking at the bench midfield. You've got Dre Wright. I don't think he started there. You've got Stevie Mallon. He's a bit of a forgotten man in midfield. Scott Allen, hopefully he's back and playing to the best of his ability soon. Hallberg, I think Hallberg's a player. I think he's a cracking guy to come in when we need him. I would just go with the starting 11 for Friday night.
Aye, it's a tough one, isn't it? So I think the back four pretty much picks itself for the moment. The back five, if you take Marciano into it. So goalkeeper, easy pick, Marciano. McGinn, I don't think he's done anything. They didn't have a great game against Hamilton second half, but he's over the season. He's played very well. You couldn't drop him at the moment, even taking into consideration that his replacement would be Sir David Gray. Yeah. But I think McGinn happy enough there. Hanlon and Porteous, you're not dropping either of those two in current form. Both had a really good season. I would stick with Lewis Stevenson for the time being at left back. Personal preference. We'd have no problem with Dougie Tripod in that position either. But I think that would be my go-to back four. Right, that's who I would start with. The midfield is a much harder one to pick because we've got so much quality in there now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Gogic, I think he plays.
He's going to start, eh?
Aye, I mean he's sort of that last line of defence before it gets to the defence. He's drug us out of trouble before it turned into trouble. All that kind of thing. He just has that sort of role. Joe Newell, again, you'd be hard pushed on current form to drop Newell because you noticed the difference when we played Hamlin when he went off injured.
Yep.
I think we lost a little bit of momentum. That said, if McGuinness is fit and healthy, and once he's up to match fitness, I would think he will be more effective more often than Newell. Is my view on it. I think he will impact games more. I think he's a bit more physical, a bit more direct, and a bit quicker than Joe Newell is.
Yep.
With sort of the box-to-box midfielder, if you like, if you want to take a cliche. So
I'm saying I agree with you here. I actually don't know how fast McGuinness is, like I've said. But Joe Newell is that slightly, I want to say, sort of luxurious player, like just the way that he drifts and glides about the pitch. Like he is just nice. He's just a nice footballer to watch.
Very, very, very comfortable. And if we had never had McGuinness, Joe Newell would be taking that spot, no bother.
Yeah, but it's good to have that competition.
Absolutely. And you think if I was Joe Newell, seeing that signing coming in, I'd be like, right, it's taking me a while to find my feet at Hibs.
Yeah.
I've won the fans over. I've got a starting spot. I didn't want to lose it. He can't really afford to have a bad game or two bad games now.
No.
And still expect to stay in the team. So, like you say, competition is healthy. Malin, I think, stays on the bench. I don't think he's a starter at the moment, nor is Hallberg. On this season's form, neither is Scott Allen. And assuming Scott Allen's, we've all seen the rumours and stuff like that, but assuming that he's, fit for the rest of the season, at the moment, with the shape that we would play, I don't think there's a starting spot for Scott Allen. He's somebody you could bring on to change a game if you need to. Either side of the midfield, I'd go with Boyle and Murphy.
Yeah.
And then you got Doidge and Nisbet up front, and those two pick themselves. I mean, you wouldn't. There's neither of them you would drop. Yeah.
Just to go back to something that you mentioned way back at the start, I don't think that we're that light up front because we've got Jamie Gullen and Ryan Shanley got his debut this season. I think if we ever need a striker to come on, if one of them was to get injured or we're looking to get game time or whatever, those two, they'll be the ones to come in. I don't know that we need an experienced first teamer to sit on the bench to deprive them of game time, if you know what I mean.
No, I would agree with that. You've also have got the option, because we've got Wright there, you've got the option of moving Murphy into a striker position or Boyle, which is the other benefit of having that bit of depth around the squad.
It's just that added versatility in it.
Yeah, and I don't think any of the players that we would bring in now are going to let us down. Even you look at the cameos that Malin's had this season, he's been impressive when he's come on. He looks like he has a bit of a point to prove.
Yep.
And he looks like he's playing in a position that suits him better than he did under sort of previous managers and pre-injury.
I do wonder if, and this might be totally controversial, but I do wonder if there's like we're talking about McGuinness challenging Joe Newell for that starting position. I wonder if there's maybe a wee bit of challenge there for Malin going for the Newell position, like being left-footed on the left side of the pitch. And I even wonder if, like, maybe playing a wee bit deeper, Scott Allen, if there's maybe a position there for him as well. Not necessarily as a starter, but certainly challenging. Just everyone fighting for positions.
Well, you'd want it. I suppose you also want somebody to threaten Gogic's place as well, because you didn't want anybody resting on their laurels. And I think McGuinness has got he likes a tackle and things like that. So if Gogic isn't available, then McGuinness takes that spot and you play Newell beside him.
Yep.
It's really good, and it gives us flexibility. This is the other thing. Like, if you got a game where, when we played Motherwell and our midfield got overrun,
yep,
the direction of traffic in that game was more geared towards Motherwell than it was us. It's easy to change the system in that case. You could put on another central midfielder who's going to impact the game, and we've not had that for a while.
If what you're saying about McGuinness is accurate, then I wonder if in that Motherwell game, if he was the one that was going to be pushing and harrying Turnbull, because Turnbull dropped really deep for Motherwell in that game, and he was directing play for them. And we I think maybe brought on Hallberg after about, I want to say about 55, 60 minutes, and he was getting a hold of him for a while, but then he took a pretty heavy challenge and he seemed to drift out after that.
Aye.
So, I wonder. Turnbull's obviously moved on now, but like Ross, I think, had mentioned that he was looking for that sort of box-to-box type. And I wonder if you're going to get that level of running out of McGuinness. Certainly the signing, it maybe suggests that Ross is looking for him to start. challenge for a starting position, and then start if there's a, like you say, a drop in performance, injury, suspension, whatever.
Aye, I think you're right. I think that is exactly the type of signing that he is. Any more to add on the transfer window, John? Any final closing thoughts before we go and look back at the Hamilton game?
I don't. Just one wee thing, and I think it's a real positive for Hibs, especially because Hibs had got that much stick for closing the academy, and there was a bit of a question mark when Hibs stopped playing a development game. So we've got Marciano. Marciano's number one. Hibs number one, Israeli number one, international goalkeeper, Bloody Buy's outstanding goalkeeper. We brought the boy Dylan Barnes, and I was having a look on Wikipedia about him because I know nothing about him. I mean, he's not actually played that many games, but it's probably a good move for Hibs to bring him in and allow Dubrovsky to go out on loan, because it gives Dubrovsky the opportunity to get game time, which he'd got previously at Cowdenbeath. And I think it maybe slightly fits into that 3-year cycle that Raimondo was talking about, because at some point we're going to want Dubrovsky back, and he's going to be that able guy sitting there as number 2.
Yeah. Or stepping into Rocky's shoes if Rocky
moves on. Or stepping into Rocky's shoes, because, Bill, I was saying we need to divert my HSL money to giving Marciano a new contract, so we'll see how that pans out.
Right, okay then. Next thing to talk about, Hibernian 3, Hamilton 2. Now, John, you were on the Whiskies early doors in this one. If you remember, we were recording Short Bangers, and we left that recording just as Kevin Nisbet bent in his free kick. So do you remember much of the game after that? Is this a easy topic for you?
I would say I didn't remember it in depth, and I think that, or I wonder how many people would be able to remember it in depth, because for, I think, the largest portion of the game, it looked like Hibs were comfortable 3-0 winners, and it would finish that way. And then, I don't know, performance levels, concentration levels dipped, and suddenly we find ourselves at 3-2, with Marciano also having saved one penalty out of the 2 that were thrown at him.
It was mental. I think it was for 70, 75 minutes. I think it was the best performance of the season, I would say. We've had a few good ones. Livy away, St Mirren away, Rangers at home. Good performances. But I think this one we just attacked. It was reminiscent almost of Mowbray era Hibs, with the way that we flooded forward and attacked with that sort of purpose and pace and creativity. So each attack was slightly different. It wasn't like we were following a
set
cut
pattern
inside and there's the gaps. Actually, we were creating gaps out left, right, and centre. And if it wasn't Murphy on one side, it was Boyle on the other, or it was coming through the middle via Nisbet. And it was just really good to watch. And the 3 goals, so the free kick, lovely free kick for Nisbet.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was maybe question marks about the keeper, but I think the way that Nisbet shaped up to hit it, the keeper's expecting it to come over the wall.
Yeah.
And go another corner. So the time he's seen it, pretty much the ball's already in. So really, really, really good finish.
It's like it was just a fine angle that he could hit, and he hit it. There wasn't much for him to aim at there. Like you say, the obvious one would have been over the wall, aiming for sort of top corner. But he's completely wrong-footed, everyone, goalkeeper included.
The second goal header for Nisbet as well.
Yep.
And again, interesting, it was a good move up until that point. I think the ball found its way out to Newell, who just kind of flicked in a really good cross. But it's not an easy header. Nisbet made it look easy, but if you look, he's quite a distance out. And he's almost sort of leaning back towards his own goal, like away from the goal, to get his head around it and flick it. And I'm copying it, as you can see me on the video. But if I'm leaning over on my chair and heading an invisible ball here to just leave the goal. But if you watch Nisbet's movement in it, and again, you'll maybe not remember this, John, for the Whiskey Head, but Nisbet's movement in that move is really good. How he gets his space and gets in front of the defender to get on it, and it's a lovely wee header in off the underside of the bar, which always looks good as well, doesn't it, if it comes off the woodworking in.
Do you know what I should have done before this podcast? Is I should have at least watched the goals back, because I would have been able to sit here and nod sagely and say, yes, Matthew, you're right. The movement was outstanding. But actually, all I remember is the awkward finish. Like it wasn't like it wasn't a stereotypical header. He's not got the forehead on it. He's not put the neck through it. He's just sort of. It's almost like he's used the delivery and the angle of the ball from where he's standing to let it glance off him and go in.
Aye.
But still, like you say, managed to get the power, direction, in off the crossbar, giving the keeper no chance. I'm reluctant to say it, but it's almost like a proper striker's finish. Like he's just in the box and he's known exactly what to do. It doesn't matter. He's not thinking to himself, I need to do everything that the coaches have told me. He's just known, I need to be here and it's going in.
Yeah. Aye. It's instinctive, isn't it? Like obviously something must have worked on a lot to have that sort of instinct. But aye, really good goal. And the third goal was Hanlon. So again, it was a cross in. I think it was a free kick, wasn't it? Kind of ball went in back post and Doidge kept it alive. Sort of. That's a good saying, eh? Like the ball, you get a dead ball and Doidge kept it alive. So I don't know how that works.
Is that an oxymoron?
Aye, must be. He's resuscitated it. Anyway, he's kind of headed it back across goal. And then Hanlon's jumped and just kind of nodded it into the net. It was one of those goals, when you're looking at it, because you've got no crowd noise, I thought it was being disallowed.
Yeah,
you're waiting on a foul on the keeper, and if there was no foul, like you watch it back and there's no suggestion of a free kick at all. But it's one of those ones when you watch it live, I was like, it's not been given. And then I'm like, oh, it has. That's 3-0.
I think, I'm having a really bad case of deja vu here. Did we have a conversation about a game? Was it that game was it the game on Friday night where Hibs had scored? And I was like, oh, what's happening here? And it was actually going. It's just you've got, like you say, there's no crowd noise. The players aren't, like knee sliding across in front of the East Stand or the main stand.
Martin Boyle's goal against St Mirren was the same. Where they headed it, the kind of football.
Oh, yeah. Aye.
And
just kind of like.
Funny, didn't it?
Aye.
Their keeper, I can't remember their goalkeeper's name. That's terrible. He kept him in. He stopped it being a cricket score. At one point, like he had a wonderful save for Doidge. Doidge got a header in, and it's a goal all day long. When you're looking at it, he makes a really good connection. It's close range, and the keeper saved it. And he's had a few other saves that have been really good. He's obviously saved a one-on-one with Doidge in the first half. And we could have been comfortably 5 or 6 up.
So you're talking about two that Doidge, the keeper saved, not that Doidge has missed them. And I'm thinking about two that Nisbet has hit the keeper as well, and the keeper's managed to save them. So I'm thinking of that. Hibs are 3-0 up at that point. That could have been 7. And I was furious. I should be so angry that I know the Hamilton keeper's name, but I had a fiver. I had, between me and two mates, we had how much was it? 30 quid, 15 quid each on Doidge and Nisbet to score a hat-trick. Not both in the same game, but obviously if it had come up, we would have been about 500 quid richer. But when Nisbet scored the first one, we're thinking, oh, aye. And then the second one, I'm just about falling off my chair, and I'm thinking Nisbet is definitely, this is happening. I'm going to be 200 quid up, and I'm already thinking about what I'm going to spend it on. And then, the keeper has 4 wonder saves, 2 of them for Nisbet, and Nisbet gets subbed off in like the 75th minute or something. I'm £10 out of pocket.
We could have been comfortable, and we give away the first penalty, and you hope that really would have been a wake-up call, because even though, I think it was a penalty, there was a wee bit of argument whether it might have been outside the box or not. I'm quite happy for them to get a penalty in that one. The boys threw on goal, really, and because it's inside the box and given, McGinn doesn't get sent off, so it's a good thing. But actually, that move was a really good move for Hamilton. I think they were in looking likely to score there anyway. Even if it hadn't been a penalty, they've got a good chance to score. It's a good bit of attacking play, but we switched off a wee bit for it. Rocky's made a great save, and I think we had a bit of discussion about whether he had saved the penalty before. And the only time I could remember was the one against Hearts, where they scored the rebound, but he'd saved the initial penalty. I don't know if you remember that. It was a typical fucking Hearts goal as well. That, if you remember, like we save a penalty and they kind of bundled in. I don't even think the boy managed to bundle in on his first attempt at the rebound and should have bounced back to him again.
Was that the Scottish Cup game? Was it that one when Hibs won 3-1?
Yeah, it was a 3-1 because we were absolutely rampant that night, and that that penalty. Even if we'd saved it and it'd been 3-0, it would have been a better reflection on the game. But it was if Hearts could score a Hearts type penalty, that was it. Like as Hearts as it gets, like managing to make a penalty goal look ugly. But Rocky saved that one. We couldn't remember. Maybe somebody could tweet us and tell us if he has saved another one in between. But the attacker got a wee bit of criticism for his penalty, but I actually thought it was a good save. If Rocky doesn't dive that way, obviously it's a goal. The guys could have found the corner, maybe not with the most power in it.
Yeah. But
he's just guessed right and saved it. You hope at that point it's a wake-up call, but then next thing you know, we've given away another penalty. And it's Porteous. The interesting one on this one, the commentators all seem to be pretty unanimous that it was a penalty for the foul on him. And I agreed with him. I thought, yep, can't really argue with that. The referee I thought had quite a good game. Joe Newell had one in the first half, just the same, but the way that he went down. Now, some folks said he dived, but I think actually if you look at it again, see the angle that the guy catches Newell and he goes up and over his leg. It's just that's the way he fell. That's a penalty as well. If you give him one, it's the same foul, just they've fallen differently.
Yeah, I thought Newell's was definitely a penalty. I'm surprised it wasn't given. But I think you're right. The two fouls were similar. The only difference was I think Porteous sticks his leg out, so the boy falls over it going forward, whereas the Hamilton player sticks his leg out behind him, if I remember rightly, and Newell goes over it that way. So I don't know. Maybe you could ask Josh actually if there's a different interpretation of the rules for referees when the legs are going forwards or backwards.
So watching it with Josh, he thought they were both penalties.
There you have it.
Aye, as a qualified ref, he said I would have given both of them. Anyway, then it was Callahan that scored. That's the same Callahan that was in the Effie Ambrose song, wasn't it? He used to play for Hearts.
Is it? Oh, I don't know. I was admiring him before. Maybe admire's the wrong word. I was observing him at the start of the game because the camera had focused on him, and the boy looks like he's got quadriceps of steel. Like he looks like he wouldn't be able to place in a Superman costume. And then you look at the size of his nose and you think, fuck me, like maybe you wouldn't be looking good in a Superman costume. Maybe the Penguin.
He took it and then tucked it away. And again, you're not expecting the keeper to save 2 penalties in the game, are you? So that was that. And then
no, unless you're Conrad Logan.
Unless you're Conrad, of course, the big polar bear would have done it. And then Porteous scores his own goal. And again, I think he was maybe just caught a wee bit out of position and just overstretched for the ball. But what was interesting, I don't know if you clocked about Lewis Stevenson going absolutely tonto at him for it.
Oh, was he?
Oh, Lewis was not happy about that going in at all. And I don't mind that. I don't mind players giving balling other players out for things like that, especially when we're cruising in the game, really comfortable, by far and away the better team. And then all of a sudden you're like, shite, that's 3-2, and you can. What we're like is as a team. What experience has told us.
Aye. So there's a couple of things that I want to pick up on. Like you mentioned before about I think it was the first penalty. You talked about it being a wake-up call, and I've seen some people on Twitter in particular. I don't think I've seen it on the message boards, but on Twitter. I've lost my train of thought. Wake up call, players. Oh, aye, that was it. If there had been a crowd there, then Hibs would have potentially, it would have been a point, or potentially Hamilton would have got the tail between their legs and gone on to win it 4-3. I wonder, like going back to what we were saying about the transfer window earlier and the players that we brought in. So whether we think Newell's going to remain a starter or whatever for the remainder of the season, the fact of the matter is that he's sustained his shoulder injuries as a result of that penalty foul, that wasn't given, which should have been a penalty. And then I think he's taken a bit of a sore one later on, and they've maybe just taken a wee bit of a precautionary measure.
By the way, the other one was a free kick as well. He got caught late, and who's the boy that used to play for Hearts that plays for Hamilton now, the Templeton? His shot just went wide. He had a shot right in the back. It nearly scored, but I would have been absolutely fucking raging if that goal had been given had it gone in, because Newell was fouled. The boy caught him well late. He was about a day late. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, sorry, I interrupted you there to make that point.
That's okay. That's okay. So in that situation, I think what we've done is we brought Hallberg on, and I'm not saying that Hallberg isn't a good player or whatever, but perhaps by bringing in some of the other players that we brought in, McGuinness in particular, perhaps McGuinness was the type of player that would, could potentially come in that situation and help alleviate pressure or do whatever it is that he needs to do in that situation. One of the things that we've talked about before, I think it was after the Hearts game last season, when there was a suggestion from a player who you didn't name, and you were talking about, or we got in it talking about mentality and what have you. So it's interesting to see that player, who wasn't named at the time, but I think we all knew who it was, going absolutely fucking berserk at Porteous. And to be fair, I think one of the things I've talked about in regards to Porteous in previous podcasts is that he has matured massively from the player that he was last season. I think he is I think you actually see improvements on the pitch in every game that he plays, where he has improved. He's taken on board a previous mistake that he's made, or just the experience of those 90 minutes. You see him sort of just progress as a player. So he stuck his leg out needlessly, I think, or a bit lazily, and we've conceded the penalty. And suddenly you're 3-1 down. And then he gets his head on something, and it's 3-2. And I think there's maybe an argument to be made there. It's kind of like if Manny had Boz, Hibs might have found themselves under a bit of pressure, especially for the crowds, because things weren't going exactly to the plan at that point. If I think had Newell remained on the pitch, there's a good chance that we would have just seen the game out, like you say, maybe we go on and score 5-0. Score another couple of goals and it's 5-0, or maybe it stays at 3-0. It looks a lot more comfortable. But just those tiny little things suddenly impact the game. The loss of a player, the giving away of a penalty, and hopefully, I've got absolutely no concerns. Porteous, maybe he's made a couple of mistakes, but I've got no concerns that he's going to learn from them. And especially if he's got someone like Stevenson giving him stick. I think if there's anyone at Easter Road potentially harder than Ryan Porteous, or would win against Ryan Porteous in a 50-50, it's got to be Stevenson.
Aye. Well, the interesting, the funny thing is despite those two mistakes, Porteous had a really good game. He was comfortable in the match. It's not like he's gone and had a shocker like the whole 90 minutes and it's just been one to forget for him. Actually, for 75 minutes of the game, he's not put a foot wrong.
Yeah, it's those. I think it's maybe the sort of the flip side, like the opposite side of the pitch. Because I talked about Trey Wright and I think other players weeks ago. I think Martin Boyle maybe pointed out for the opportunity they had against Aberdeen being clinical. And perhaps Porteous just hasn't been clinical in what he needed to do at the back. Like I say, the lazy leg out there, he's jumped for something that maybe he didn't need to. Maybe there wasn't a shout behind him. Maybe he was out of position. He'll learn from it. We'll improve. We won 3-2. Let's not panic.
Aye, that's it. And the goal like today was a good performance. A couple of moments in the match you'd want to improve on. But overall, Hamilton didn't really trouble us.
If those 50 minutes are all we have to improve on, we're doing all right.
Aye, you're all right. That's it. You're in a good place. And sometimes sometimes punished. Like the own goal, for example, or another day that flicks off his head and goes over the bar, or Shane the Rocky's arms or whatever, and you just live with it. Still, right. Good performance. There was loads that I liked in that game, and particularly the first half was absolutely buzzing for it. I think it's funny because we came off a short bangers recording that, and I really enjoyed Thursday's show. So if you listen to this and you haven't listened to Thursday's short bangers, go and have a listen to it. It was a good laugh. Obviously,
I've got no idea what we talked about.
No, I needed a bath. Obviously, we caught the goal just as we were wrapping up. Hibs scored the first one, so it was ideal. So I came off already in a good mood for that. Sat and then watched the next however long of the game and was buzzing. I was like, actually, I'd watch this every week quite happily. We're well on top in that game, playing some really nice stuff, creating loads of chances, scoring goals, everything you want to see for Hibs.
Yep.
And then they just remind you that it is Hibs. That's all that happens. They just went, they didn't get carried away. Just remember, we've got this.
Maybe know that it's Hibs. Maybe that it's still a game of football. It's not.
Aye. Well, it's probably fairer, yeah.
Like things happen. Like football's football. It's played by humans. We still won. That's my overriding message. It was 3-2. Great performances all round.
And it puts us in a really strong place moving into the last 2 games to go, or 1 game to go. The only Ross County we've got to play, and that's just in the first round of the fixtures.
Right.
So, and I think
Aye, that's right. Aye.
it was the best first round of fixtures since McLeish.
There you go.
Since he was in charge. So it shows you how difficult it is to put those kind of results together. That we've not done it, and we've had some good times since good teams since McLeish has been there. So we're looking good. I think we can look back on that first round of games and be pretty happy with ourselves.
I think I'll need to have a wee double check, but I think at my last count, Hibs had taken 63% of all points available so far this season, which was round about the number of points that Jack Ross had gained when he was in charge of Sunderland. So I'll double check that. Never mind. This harks back to something I'd looked at before when I was when people talked about Jack Ross's win percentage when he was in charge of Sunderland, and I was interested in the number of points that he'd got. And I think we're averaging about the same so far. So and aye, like the squad's looking good, and we're playing good football. I think the future's positive.
Aye.
What a change for a year ago.
I know.
Like we were already slit our wrists.
I know. If you listen, this is the Longbangers podcast. It is Hibs we're talking about. It's just nice. It's nice, and Hibs are just as capable of going and something going completely wrong and not quite fulfilling that potential. But this is the first time I've probably ever felt that we've got a chance of doing it, not just talking about it, but actually delivering on the other end of it and coming away with something tangible. Right, tomorrow we've got 2 games against Rangers coming up, isn't it? Brora Rangers tomorrow and Cove Rangers on Saturday, or is it the other way around?
I thought you meant the Sevco.
The
what have I forgotten? Have we got back-to-back fixtures against that lot? But no, Brora and Cove.
Aye, Brora and Cove. They should be, in inverted commas, fairly routine no matter which side we put out. You would think?
I'd like to see guys like Jamie Gullen get a shot. Maybe not so much Ryan Shanley, but certainly get him in and get him some game time. And certainly, I saw that McGuinness is in for a start, but I wonder if that'll be a wee bit of a training exercise for him, because I know that he's coming back from a serious injury. But he's obviously fit. He's passed his fitness test to come and join us. So hopefully see him get a run out and see a wee bit more what he's about, so I can educate myself now that he's a Hibs player.
Well, we know for definite Rocky will not be playing because he's on international duty with Israel, where he'll be up against Porteous, who's also away. I don't think we've got anybody else away, have we?
Debutant Dylan Barnes. So did you say Gogic is away? Sorry.
Oh, Gogic is away. Gogic, Porteous, and Marciano. And Doige should have been away, by the way. We almost had a striker pull out, and I can't believe Giggs isn't having a look at Doige. Mental.
Aye, what are you going to do? I think I've said this before about Hibs players getting called up. I'd love to see Hibs players, regardless of their nationality, get called up by their national team and do well for them. But if it means we didn't run the risk of one of our better players getting injured and they're staying at home and just watching the telly, I'm all right with that as well.
Aye, I suppose there is that kind of that way of looking at it too. I think Brora haven't really been doing much in terms of pre-season and stuff, but I think every advantage, aside from the obvious one, in terms of the size of the club and standing in the game. In fact, we're a top flight club, and I didn't even know what league. That's so disrespectful. But Brora Rangers, they're not troubling any of the top divisions, are they? So we should be able to kind of go there and actually kind of win really comfortably. But then I think Annan beat Hamilton the night. They were. I think when we started the podcast, they were 3-1 up.
3-0. Or was it 3-1?
Hamilton had scored, so the shocks can happen. But I
think it's maybe going to be a funny League Cup campaign based on that result. And I think there's been a couple of ties that have been awarded as 3-0 victories because of failed COVID tests, which is it seems a bit of a harsh punishment. But I don't know if
4 for 4's 5-5. 4 for they forfeited against Dundee. And Kelly was the other one, wasn't it? They forfeited. I can't remember who they were. Falkirk. Kelly Falkirk. So Falkirk and Dundee both got 3-0 wins. The referee helped Hearts out the night. They won 1-0. You want to see this penalty that they got? Again, talk about Hearts getting decisions. You watch this one. Never a penalty in a million years, but still, there they go. They beat Inverness 1-0. So We should win comfortably. Probably not too much to go through. I don't know what team we'll play. I would like to think it'll be the fringe players. So Malin, Hallberg, I would think we'll both start. Jay Wright, I think we'll start. Murphy's still getting back up to fitness, so I think he's probably going to play. I don't know if
Stephen McGinn, perhaps.
Stephen McGinn would be a good one for him to get some game time. McGregor, Sir David Gray, might see some action as well, which would be good. You know, just even for the sentiment, it would be good to see them. And I didn't mean that to sound patronising, because I love them both. You know,
let's put the band back together.
But it would be nice to see them getting a run out as well and contributing to the season. So
they're still valuable members of the squad, even if they're not playing. Like they're still, we were talking about new guys being competition. They'll still be competition for the likes of McGinn, Porteous, Hanlon.
100%. So, hopefully, and Hibs TV as well are showing the game tomorrow night, free for season ticket holders, which I thought was fantastic. And I know there'll probably be some season ticket holders out there that think, well, so they should. But you know, when you buy a season ticket, it doesn't include the cup games. You know, divine right to that one. But I think Hibs have rightly looked at it and thought, do you know what? Season ticket holders have got a raw deal this season. They've repaid us by going out and doing some good business in transfer window, and I think it's really nice gesture to go and say, we're at home. It's a cup game. This one's on us as well. That's good. I'm really, really happy with Hibs for doing that.
To be honest, looking at it, if it was a regular season ticket, all that kind of stuff, I'd have paid the money if they'd said, it would have been maybe a bit of a PR disaster, but I'd have still paid the money.
I think that's where you run the risk. You say, right, we'll charge it. There'll be folk like you or I who would say that's fine, 15 quid, whatever, we'll buy it. But there'll also be a large chunk of folk who think, you know what, I've already paying this for 3 season ticket holders, and we'll just watch the one Hibs TV subscription, and there's that bit, and you risk one for the other. I would say they've made the right call. We're talking about decisions that the club have made earlier on in the podcast. I think this is another one where you look at it and go, well done, you've done the right thing. Aye, even though they could have cashed in on it, they've done the right thing. It's good.
Out of curiosity, as you're a man that's slightly more in the know than me, do you know if the game on Saturday is on any sort of pay-per-view, or is it on TV?
It's on Premier Sports.
Right, so I'm going to have to go to a boozer to watch it then.
Aye, so if you have I think the subscription for that is $9.99 a month, so you could pay a tenner and watch it. And you'll get other Betfred Cup games on it as well, I would imagine. Not that I would plug them, but that's how you can watch it. I don't think it will be available on Hibs TV from what I gather. I can't imagine it would be if Premier are showing it, but there you go.
Quality.
All right, so we'll be back on. That's pretty much us for tonight, John. Thank you. We've hit the hour mark. Sorry, Mark. No offence. When I come here on the hour again, you prick. We've covered everything that we were going to cover. We've got short bangers on Thursday, so a couple of things to run through. Thank you. First of all, we were just shy of 2,000 followers on Twitter the other night. I don't often check our Twitter follower numbers, and I kind of clicked into our profiles. I was switching between Longbangers and my own one, and I noticed we were 16 followers shy of 2,000. And I put a wee request out just to say to people who follow us or like the podcast, say, going to do us a wee favour and retweet this and see if we can get up above 2,000. So people really responded, and we kind of went well above that. So if you were one of those people who either followed us or retweeted it or recommended us, because we've got a few shout outs as well, we'd honestly appreciate that. It's massive. Obviously, we're quite a niche podcast. We don't have a huge audience. It's getting bigger. But the way we can grow the podcast is by people sharing the word. So if I can make a request, if you listen and you like it, go and let us know on Twitter. People see that and they'll come back. We also always start a thread on Highbees Bounce and Hibs.net. So if you listen and you want to talk about anything that we've talked about on the podcast, you can tweet us or you can go on those threads and make it be postable. We'll generally always come back to you. We'll interact, and if it's a good enough tweet or post, we tend to cover it in the show as well. So the more interaction we get for the listeners, the better, because we wouldn't do it if we never had anybody listening. So
you made that sound like if your tweet's shite, then we'll not read it.
Aye, well to be fair, there was a way of saying it, wasn't it? I didn't know what I just. if it's abusive, or not just if it's abusive but not funny, like abusive we could take if there's a bit of humour behind it. Obviously, we'd rather not have the abusive ones, but that might get read out.
And
if it's funny, not just straightforward abuse, we'll ignore those ones. We'll go on the block list for that.
and the tweets I love in particular are the ones that correct me on my pronunciation and my geographical knowledge. So
you got that wrong, eh? And
is it? Is it?
do you remember how we
Wrestle?
spell wrestle rig?
Is it? I had,
Silent.
I'm sure
Silent.
any time I've ever heard anyone pronounce it, it's been wrestle rig. So I apologise for that. It's not actually a road that I'm aware that I've ever been down, but I do fully intend on going out to see Alan's Bakery on Wrestle Rig Road. Purveyors of pies and pastries. Make sure and visit.
A free plug again, eh? See, honestly, if I go to that shop and they get a free pie, I will be livid.
Same.
Aye. Right. So I think that was it for the thank yous. But yeah, as always, I mean, the other things, we've got a YouTube channel as well. So we're sort of flirting with the idea of what we can do with that. But the way that YouTube works is they'll not let you do anything unless people subscribe to your channel. So I think we've got something like 6 subscribers or something just now. It's more than 6. We're not kicking ass off it.
15, I'll be happy.
So again, if you look, it's easy to find us. It's Longbangers.com. We're 98 subscribers on. I kind of understated that a wee bit, so we're almost at the 100. But it only costs you the time to click a wee button to say subscribe, and that's it. The more subscribers we got on there, YouTube lets us do more things like live broadcasts and shit like that. Know that I reckon there'd be a huge appetite for it, but you never know where the podcast goes. So
is that another fat joke aimed at Curvy Nisbet?
what did a live show?
Oh, I actually have immediately forgotten exactly what you said there. What was it? Fuck. Well, how do we rewind? How do we listen to this back? There was definitely a fat joke there.
I wasn't making any fat jokes about it. At least I hope not intentionally anyway. So to see more of this of this content, just follow us on the channels, Twitter, Facebook. We're on there, and YouTube. Do us a favour, give us a wee plug and interact with the show. It's always great to get your thoughts and get your questions in for Thursday's short bangers. And that'll do us, John. I've worked on long enough there. Probably added about 10 minutes to the podcast for that nonsense.
Just by the outro.
Aye. Thanks for your time, John. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no.